I got picked up by so-and-so publishers. They just cut me a check for $1 million and I'm gonna sit back and spend the next year writing my next book. And I got royalties of $500,000 up front. That doesn't happen anymore. I went to law school, St. John's University in New York. Not a lot of women, not a lot of minorities. I had served in the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force, and I was an officer. I was isolated, I was depressed, I was crying all the time.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where we have conversations with people who are crushing it in their fields. And today I have someone with me who is an absolute rock star in multiple ways. But the thing that really sparked my attention with her is her unique approach to helping people get their books out there to help promote their brand, build their business, and most of all, reach and help more people with what they actually are genius at. Her name is Marjah Simon. Marjah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ken. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Now, here's what's cool. If you're watching this on video, then you're going to see this right away. But if you're having the auditory experience on the podcast, then I need to describe what I'm seeing here. Here's somebody who is super confident, has amazing skin, amazing hair. But I think that if you Google her name on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you'd be hard pressed to figure out that she's actually a grandmother. So we're going to unpack that a little bit. And when I discovered that, I was like, no freaking way. How do you do that? So we might even go into like skincare tips and things like that. I don't know. We just might. I don't know.
I might tell you some secrets.
Some secrets. And you might have a book on it too. Marjah, could you?
I've actually had people following me around the store trying to watch what I was buying. So.
No way. You got some stalkers. Oh, that's good. That's good. Marjah, tell us in a nutshell what kind of people you help and how you help them with your services.
Yeah, so the people that I primarily work with are successful, busy entrepreneurs. That's probably about 95% of my clients. I also have a subset of people in the entertainment field, celebrities and people behind the celebrity field, professional athletes, retired professional athletes, as well as professionals like doctors, lawyers, and CPAs. So that makes up pretty much most of the people that I work with. And I absolutely love working with them because these are people that have taken a difficult, non-traditional route in life. They have had to overcome a lot. They usually come from a place of high adversity, low support, and yet they're now just crushing it in the world, making an impact, making a difference. They've created jobs for people. They're saving lives, changing lives, and just causing positive effects in the world. And I say, I'm a grave robber. I bet you didn't know you're going to have your first grave robber on the show, right? And so, I look to rob the grave of all of that wisdom, experience, knowledge that falls into it every day. And so by capturing what they've gone through, their stories and their journey, as well as their wisdom, what they have figured out, how they are showing up and causing what they're causing in the world, I'm able to bring that out into the world so that their legacy is preserved, so that that knowledge actually gets passed on throughout our generation today, as well as future generations. It makes such a difference. And I'm not just looking at how does it impact the world and the people out there, which it does, but also how can it help the author? How can it help these people to do even more of what they're doing in the world? And so when I meet with them, we're not just talking about their book creation. We're looking at their business. We're looking at their mission, their vision, their purpose in life. And how do we use their business to elevate their book? How do we use their book to elevate their business? And so that it's a symbiotic relationship that is created between these. It's attracting more clients to them. It's bringing them in front of more people, and so that they can have even greater impact in the world.
That's awesome. Now, Marjah, what I want to do, and I appreciate you explaining so thoroughly how you do this and what it's helping people do. A lot of people are gonna look you up online or listen to this podcast right now. Maybe they're watching us on YouTube and they're gonna think to themselves, "Hey, that sounds amazing," but I don't think I could ever accomplish that because Marjah is so amazing. Like, there's just this gap between people who haven't started and where you're at. So, if you don't mind, I want to rewind a little bit. Talk about what were you doing before you were doing this? Like before you got into starting this business, what were you doing? And then I want to kind of take each major thing you did and how it linked to the next thing, because I want to make the journey real, because nothing happens overnight. Overnight success is a myth. It's a culmination of all your experiences. So I want my audience to hear your story a little bit. Tell me about that.
Wow. I seem to have lived multiple lifetimes. And so it's like when people ask me, "Oh, tell me about your story," I'm always, my brain always goes, "Okay, which part of my story am I telling?" And let's see. One, I'm an attorney. And so 3 years ago, I decided that becoming sick, lonely, depressed, and isolated for my job and for my career was not how I wanted to continue in my life.
Didn't Charles also have a previous life in the military?
I did. I also had served in the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force. I was in 2 military services. I was also enlisted, and I was an officer, and I was also a reservist and active duty.
So you know the military pretty well. You've been like around the block,
yes.
A lot of different stations.
Yeah.
And then attorney. Okay.
Yes. And I actually served as an attorney. I put myself through law school while I was in the Army Reserves. When I was in the Army Reserves, I was a heavy combat engineer, specifically carpentry and masonry, and which shocks people because I look very girly. And I was out there. I was actually in the first female cycle of females that they allowed to do that job. And so that was a very, very rough training, that because they did not treat us well at all. And it was actually very traumatic. But I graduated, I went through it, and I found a way through. And even when I said, "Okay, I've made it, I've arrived, we're females, we're doing this," and I arrived at my reserve unit and was told, "Oh, sweetheart, go sit in the office with the other women." They were women doing other types of jobs. And so basically they wanted me to do secretarial work. And I said, "Excuse me, you might be mistaken. That's not my job. I'm a carpenter. I'm a heavy combat engineer, just like the guys that are out there by the trucks doing their job." And "Yeah, but we need office workers." And so I said, "Well, we can." And so I guess I was a troublemaker and an attorney even before then, and an advocate for causing change in the world. Because I said, "Well, we can definitely take this up the chain, and maybe there's some generals that would be interested in making a determination as to what job I should be doing." And because it's written in my contract what I'm supposed to be doing here. And at that point, they said, "Oh," and I said, "Oh, by the way, don't call me sweetheart." I'm a soldier just like they are. And that.
So what year was this roughly? So we're talking about
you would think it was like,
90s?
This was, let's see, 1992.
All right. So it was the 90s. Got it.
Yeah, 1992. And so they changed the rules where everybody, male and female, supported the front office and did office work. So we cycled through, and everybody got to go out and do their jobs. And so even then, I took a non-traditional route myself. I did things that people, were not doing that looked like me, and so it was a very interesting thing. While I was doing that, I decided that I was going to put myself through law school. And so after undergrad, I went to law school, St. John's University in New York, and same thing. There were Not a lot of women, not a lot of minorities. Very just a handful of us in a very large class. And again, stepping out into non-traditional routes, doing things that I didn't have a blueprint for, I didn't have a model for.
At this point, though, like you're going through military, going through school and stuff, was there always some entrepreneurship like thought in your mind, like this, I'm going to eventually start my own business, or was that not really a thought in your mind yet?
Well, actually, I realized I've been a serial entrepreneur in the background my whole life. The only thing I could think of was maybe I saw it in my grandfather. He passed away during the pandemic. He was about 97, 98 years old. And he had one of the first Black-owned farms in New York. He owned a trucking company. He was a reverend over two churches in New York and in South Carolina. He was in the army when they were still segregated, and actually went and fought in Germany. And so he and my grandmother raised eight children, and so watching him always do the things, and he did it all with a second grade education. And during a time in the U.S. where everything was against him for succeeding, and he found a way. So I think he was a bit of a role model for me growing up. And my first business, like most kids in, I don't know, probably around the world, but definitely in the U.S., was a lemonade stand. And I was around 8, 9 years old. And even then, I realized I thought very differently about business. I'm not sure why. Maybe, again, it was from seeing my grandfather. So I opened the lemonade stand, quickly realized that I could keep it open a lot longer hours if I had other people that I was working with. And so I hired the younger children that were younger than me in the neighborhood. I knew the value of money over candy. They value candy over money, so I paid them in candy. And
that's so clever.
and so they were really happy. I was really happy. It was a win-win. And so I had the children work shifts at my lemonade stand. And then in addition to that, I looked around my house and I said, well, what things can I also add to the stand that aren't being used? And I found things that were just sitting there, no one's using them. And I added those to the stand and sold like odds and ends and things like that. And then there was a rug sample book. And there were like little sticks in between the rug samples. And I thought, and it was just garbage at this point. It was just an old rug sample book.
Rug sample books. What's that? What does that even mean?
So a long time ago, when people bought rugs to lay carpet in their house, you were able to get these sample books, and you could bring.
It's like little cuttings of fabric that you can feel with it. Okay,
exactly.
Got it.
So you could feel it, so you could see the color in your house. And so I found one of these in my house. It was pretty big and thick, and it had these little sticks in between the rugs. And I said, oh, and it was different colors. So I pulled the sticks out, I bundled them together, and called them pickup sticks. And I put them on, and I remember this businessman he was in a suit, and he said, oh, what's that? I said, oh, they're pickup sticks. He's like, how much? I said, $5. And he handed me a $5 bill. And that was...
So they're just little wooden sticks,
just little wooden
the size
sticks.
of chopsticks. That's it.
Yes.
And so you just bundle them together, sold them for $5 a piece.
Yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
$5 for the bundle. Yep. And basically, pickup sticks was a game, and so different.
Yeah, if you're old enough to remember games outside of LCD screens, then yeah, I remember that.
Physical game, I know.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, you drop the sticks, and each person has a different color, and they have to try to move pick up their sticks without moving the other sticks.
Marjah, I hope you're explaining it for the audience, not me, because I know what that is, but I do also know that. Gosh, anybody like 30 or younger might not. They're just like, what? It was
kind of like Jenga, but with sticks.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I guess it's similar to that.
Yeah. So, and so that was the first aha that I could actually create money where other people didn't see opportunities. And I had multiple businesses in high school. my mom would give me $5 for lunch, and I would stop at the candy store. I would buy $5 worth of candy. I would open all of the packages so that they were single pieces. And I got very strategic about which candy I was buying, what had individual wrappings inside the total wrapper, how many pieces were in there. And I would sell, once I got to school, I would sell the candy as individual pieces. Of course, nobody had access to the candy. They wanted that. And so I would end up with, $15, $20 by the time it was second period.
It seems I've heard this so many times on the podcast. Like the first thing that people do is they sell candy. I guess it's just like literally at that age, like grade school, right? It's like a drug. Like kids will like they want candy more than anything, and it's small enough that you could like hide it in your backpack or your pockets, and it's cheap enough that you can. The other kids will have $1 or a dime or a quarter, and you could just, do small size transactions. And technically it's not illegal in most cases, right? Like to sell on school stuff.
Yeah, well, they actually outlawed it after a while. So I was the first one in my school doing this. Like I said, it was very lucrative, very easy. And so I would take that $15, $20. I'd spend $5 on my lunch. I'd have the rest of the money the next day. I'd buy more candy. So I was expanding, and I saved some money, buy some more candy, expand it out. And then other people noticed. Same thing happened with the lemonade stand. I got a hostile takeover for some teenagers in the neighborhood.
Hostile takeover. Wow. Did they literally come and like physically remove your stand and all that?
Yeah, they bullied the little children and said, "No, you're going to work for us." And they threatened me. And so I actually went out of business because the teenagers saw
how much money was there, right?
Yeah, I thought, oh, I think I'll go do something else now. And
pretty much like it was like probably like Jeff Bezos himself that did that, wasn't it? He carried those habits on.
kept doing it. Yes. Yeah, and in high school, more students started selling candy, and then the school outlawed it and said, banned it rather, and said, okay, no more. Yes, and so it was pretty funny. You would see, I stopped doing it, and you would see some people that were still kind of sneaking around, and they would sit down at your table during lunch and be like, I got candy. And it was almost like a secret drug deal, but it was for candy.
Love it. All right. Like I love this. I also want to connect to what's happening now. So you're entrepreneurial as a child, hostile takeovers, turf wars, all that going on, drug deals. And so you got military experience, bit of pushback from your superiors, but pushed through, thankfully. Lawyer. So did you go from being an attorney to what you're doing now directly?
Well, about one of the businesses in the past that I had was a food business with my sister for many years. We had a business called Anything Vegan. We did catering for celebrities, for professionals, doctors, lawyers who were very busy, and we helped them to transition into healthier ways of eating. And we also did showed people how to shop for themselves in healthier ways. We made a vegan food sauce line. So that was a company that we were doing while I was being an attorney and working full time and raising my two kids. And so during that time, I wrote my first book called Fork Disease, Go Vegan. And it was a painful experience. It took me like almost a decade of writing, rewriting, second guessing, questioning, figuring it out. I went with a traditional publisher who gave no support and took all of our money rights. It was just a horrific experience. And
what was your motivation to write the book?
I wanted to help people. I wanted to reach more people outside of the people we were working with one-on-one, and wanted to share the knowledge that we had for other people who may not be able to hire us directly. And I thought, you know what, there's a disconnect here. It should not be so painful for me to put out something good in the world That's a disconnect. And unfortunately, I've heard the same thing from so many people, which is why a lot of people don't finish their books, don't tell their story, or if they do, it takes them a decade or 2 decades to do it.
That right there, what you said, that phrase, it should not be so hard for someone to ... That one thought, that's gold. I think that anybody listening, if you have that thought, if there's something in your life that's happening, it should not be so hard to ... That is potentially the birth of an amazing business idea or an amazing business in itself.
Yes, it is.
It should not be so hard to ... I thought it should not be so hard to shoot a video. It should not be so hard to get on social media.
You rocking it, yeah.
So yeah, it's just that little seedling of a thought that can get you so far.
Yes.
So you took action on that, and
yeah, our pain is often the solution for many, many people. And so when we look at the things that mean something to us, the things that are causing us pain or hardship that are difficult, and we figure it out, it's very probable that a lot of people need that solution as well.
Do you remember how much you invested in getting that first book done?
Several thousands of dollars, many thousands of dollars, which as a new entrepreneur, I did not have. And it was just going down a rabbit hole. And I swore, once I finally did that and got that book out, I swore I'd never write another book again. And so, so much for never. But fast forward, it was many, many years later, because I didn't want that experience ever again, that pain. And many years later, I had what I can only describe as a spiritual download of information. I was woken up out of my sleep. I've always been a writer, always been a voracious reader. I woke up out of my sleep and there was like words just pouring through me. And I just started writing and writing and writing. And this went on for days at like 3, 4 in the morning. And I was like, oh my God, why can't you wake me up at a normal hour? and so I'm just writing and writing. And when this download of information stopped, I read it and I was like, I'm not publishing this. And I was like, some of it I don't even understand. I don't know what this means. And again, which kind of let me know that this didn't necessarily come all from me. And
you had experiences like that before, like throughout your life, or was this like a really shocking experience that like you didn't know if someone slipped you a drug or something? Or
no candy drugs here. I had other experiences as an empath. This was the first time that I had a download of written material like that come through me. And so I hid it on my computer for 2 years and I was like, I'm not publishing. I showed it to one person, a friend of mine, Francesca out of the UK. And she was like, you have to publish this. I was like, nope. And, but what's interesting is once we get out of our own way, once we get out of our insecurities, our ego, and of course I was concerned, what are people going to think of me? How is this going to be a scene coming through me? What's written here? I also remembered the past and it's like, oh, I don't want to go through that pain again. And so all of these things, these stories were going through my head and I just put it aside. I went back to work as an attorney. One of my coaches, Tony Robbins, he always talks about the moment of decision. He's like, it's not a long time. It's a heartbeat. It's to make that moment of decision. And so I went back to that job as an attorney. Like I said, the last job I was doing international contracts and litigation for the U.S. federal government with foreign countries and foreign companies. And I was isolated. I was depressed. I was crying all the time. My doctors were like, this job is literally going to kill you if you don't stop. I was in physical pain. I was getting sick. And there were so many things happening because our physical, mental, and emotional well-being are all tied together. We've separated these out as if they're separate, but they're actually intertwined in one thing. And so one was affecting the other. And finally, I had that moment of decision. And it was just one traumatic day too many. And I said, I'm done. And I walked into the personnel office and I quit. I didn't know what I was going to walk into next. I didn't know what was going to happen in my life next. I just knew that I needed to save myself and save my life.
Wow. And that's what got you started on the track that to where you are right now with this business, right?
Yeah, at that moment when I said I'm done, I heard it's time. And I can't tell you why, but I knew it was talking about that book. And I said, okay. And I was outside of myself, I was outside of my ego. And all of a sudden, in that space of openness and acceptance, and I'm open, let's do it. I had all of the people, all of the processes just kind of come to me. I spoke at the Women's Economic Forum in London. Some people, a person that I met there, we collaborated on getting my book out. The team, the people, all of the people that suddenly needed were there. And it was fun and it was easy and it was light. And I was like, oh my God, this is the experience that people should have when they're writing their book. And I put on my attorney brain and went back and said, how can I duplicate this for other people? And I reverse engineered, how can I do this? And so that's how Author Writers Academy was created. And I used my attorney skills to give them that same experience of that spiritual download of information. So I used my attorney skills and I asked you questions. I used my empathic skills to pull out your heart, your wisdom, and I use my other skills to organize that. I can see connections where other people can't see them, and I bring it together. And I've created an entire team, just like the lemonade stand from when I was a little 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid. I have an entire team that says, I looked at what else does an author need to be successful. So we have some people that create their cover, unique to their book, that does their social media campaign, that does their marketing, that does, so we take them from idea to published bestseller book without them having to write a word if they don't want to.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that, how you've broken down each component of what brought this together. Now, as you're describing this experience where where I feel like you said you channeled the whole book, and then a little later you channeled the whole blueprint for your business. How often have you met somebody who's described, well, after hearing what you described, said, I had the same experience, or I've got that book, but I'm also hiding it for whatever reason? Has that happened to you where other people have related to that?
Yes. I've had people, not so much that they said that the book was a download through them, but I've had people on a regular basis come to me and say that they've either had a desire to write a book, or people have always been telling them, hey, you should write a book. Your story is incredible. What you know is amazing. Or they find that they're saying the same things over and over, and what comes easy to them seems to be difficult to other people. And they said, I really want to share this, but I don't know how. And I help them to do that. I've also had people come and say, you know what, I've been working on my book for years. Sometimes I've been writing for, like I did with my first book, for 5, 10, 15, 20 years even. And I help them to get done in a matter of months. And then, of course, I have clients who say, yeah, I need a book for my business, or I want to become an author. I don't even know what I want to write about, or I have too many things I want to write about and don't know which one to pick. And I actually use my skills as an empath, and I take them through an open heart meditation process to help them get that clarity in just a few minutes about what the message is that they're here to share in the world right now.
Amazing. Marjah, your story so far is so fascinating, and I think we could go on and on and on, but we got to get to the stage now where we're talking about how are you currently using social media, because I know you're active on social media, I've had a look, and your books to help more people to come to find out about you, invest money in working with you, and getting these amazing results you're helping people get. So let's break it down to, first of all, where do most of your clients come from? How do they find you?
Yes, most of my clients come through referrals, word of mouth. I work with, like I said, I don't work with just anybody. I actually do turn down clients. I look for clients that are looking to put something positive in the world, that are making an impact in the world. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, I'm just doing this thing, and they don't see the brilliance that they are. I see their brilliance.
What's like the biggest sector of business owners that come into your world?
Entrepreneurs are definitely the biggest sector. Like I said, about 90% of my clients or so, probably a little more of that, 98 probably, are entrepreneurs. And even the ones that come from the other fields, like the professional athletes, the doctors, the lawyers, the CPAs, they actually are often have or are about to transition into the entrepreneurial space. And so what I'm able to offer them is support in that as well. One of the beautiful things about working with all of these beautiful minds is that all of their knowledge gets to come through my mind. And so as I'm working with each client, I can hear what they need. I can hear the information, and my brain just doesn't forget anything. And so I'm like, oh, well, I learned this from that client. I learned this from this client. And I can share that with them and direct them and say, hey, this is what you're looking at. This is what's happening in your business. This is what's happening in your health or your life. And so because we're not just writing business books, we're writing for books on medical care, healthcare, relationships, children's books. I did a poetry book once. And I look to say, okay, how can whatever the topic is that the author is looking to get out, how can this support what they're doing in the world professionally?
Mm-hmm. Now, I've written a book myself, a couple actually, and I know that there's like two broad categories. There's the people like, J.K. Rowling, Tom Clancy, Stephen King. They're going to write fiction, and they make most of their money from actual book sales and then endorsements and things like that afterwards, movie deals, right? And then on the other side, you've got the kind of people who are business owners. They write books to educate their audience, build authority, and capture leads and sales. Now, I think that you're going toward that direction, but do you play both sides of the fence here, or is it all like business related?
Yeah, we do both. It's primarily nonfiction. And so, but we actually have a fiction book that is going to be published soon in German. And so that should be fun.
You speak German?
Ja, ich spreche Deutsch. Ich spreche Deutsch. Aber my German is not that good. I lived in Germany for many years. I prefer English. I kind of definitely had a lot of resistance to it. But yes, I can take care of myself in German if I have to.
Got it. So we went into talking about how your biggest source of customers is referrals. What would your number two be?
Yeah, so definitely relationships, building direct relationships. I am in the rooms where my ideal clients are, and so we're having the same experiences. And so, like you and I, we met at a mastermind where the people that we work with are in that room, and so while I am there to learn and invest in myself. As an entrepreneur, I'm in the room with other entrepreneurs who are doing the same. And so I'm able to work with them and help them and edify their business through their books and their stories. The same, they're able to help me with the pieces that I need to serve my clients better. And so I look for where are my clients already gathering? Where are the people that I want to work with?
Amazing. Now, how does have you ever done paid advertising promotion for your services as well?
I've tried it a little bit, and I wouldn't say it didn't work. It didn't attract the audience that I wanted to attract, and it took a lot for me. It was a lot more weeding out. I enjoy putting out content that actually just serves the masses, that adds value to everyone over paid ads, things like that. And so, yeah, I'm actually going live every week. I have a team where putting that content out across multiple platforms. I'm speaking on stages, both virtually, like we're doing here, as well as live. A few days ago, I was at one of my clients. He had an event. He's in the entertainment field, and he had an amazing event called VIP Ignite. And and I spoke there. Ted McGrath spoke there. Other speakers were there. JJ Villar spoke there. And so getting in front of audiences that, again, would benefit from hearing what I've learned, and so that I can hopefully be a way for them. And so it's speaking on stages, putting out content across social media, and making sure that that is a constant everyday thing.
All right, let's go through a few things that people can take away and learn from your experience. What are you seeing as like the biggest mistake that prospects or clients are making before they come in contact with you when it comes to figuring out how to make their book make them money for their business? Because let's face it, we know that, writing a book is going to build authority. It's going to make you look fancy. You're going to, have your name on the cover, potentially become a bestseller if you work with someone like Marjah. But in the end, as a business owner, you're thinking about, is this going to be profitable investment of my time and money? So tell me about that. What are people doing that causes them to waste money or time when writing a book?
Oh, it was a great question. One of the things that just breaks my heart is when they come to me and they said, I spent so much money with a ghostwriter. I hate this. It doesn't sound like me. Can you help me? And that is probably the hardest thing to hear, because I've heard it so many times. And while there are a few good ones, I'm not a ghostwriter. I'm a conduit for their authentic voice, their words, their wisdom. And there are a few good ones, but most ghostwriters, they take their name, they take some ideas, they do some research, and they just, slap some stuff together and call you an author. And it doesn't serve the author, it doesn't serve the people that are reading it with any kind of authenticity or real knowledge. And it's just repurposed garbage. And it's the same with
do you think this is across the board, or do you think that there's like a certain
there are a few that are good, but they're far and few between.
Yeah, these are the kind of people you're going to pay like $500,000 and give them a year, and you're a celebrity or a politician, and then because I've heard about a lot of bestseller books, former presidents and stuff, and they've had ghostwriters do it, but I think these ghostwriters actually spend like a year and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they really, really embody that person. I think what you're talking about here is the kind of person who's going to typically be, like on Upwork or something, and say, I will ghostwrite a book for you. And then they'll find a video of you on YouTube, transcribe it, run it through AI, and say, ta-da!
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What the heck?
Exactly. And meanwhile, you've given them, several thousands of dollars, and you're just out of that money. And so I've had several clients come to me and basically said, okay, let's get you done the right way. And so that's one of the biggest mistakes, trying to go cheap, go fast, and go with somebody who's just not a proven model. It's a waste of time and money.
Now, here's a question I have with when I've got clients and we produce a lot of content, and my philosophy around free content, and books are not necessarily free, but they're close to free. We're talking like less than $100, right? When usually for someone's mentorship, you're going to pay multiple thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. But what I feel like is, and I learned this from my mentor named Taki, he says, if you don't give your best stuff away for free, what do you think people are expecting to find? What do you think people are expecting to get when they pay? Right? It's like so a lot of people, they give away like, oops, you got your dog. What's his or her name?
My friend's dog.
Oh, gotcha. So in your books, do you have pushback from your clients who say, well, I shouldn't say that in the book because this is in my course or stuff? Like, how do you deal with that?
No, not at all. Like I said, I work with clients. I select who I work with, and I work with people that are looking to actually make a real impact in the world. And so they are generous people, generous hearts, and they know just what you talk about, and so we'll look at if they have courses, we'll look at that. Sometimes we're also talking about multiple ways to monetize their book. And so we're looking at, if they don't have courses after the book, how can we make that happen? How can we get their courses, their podcasts? How can we get them on more stages? How can we expand their reach and impact in the world. And so it's not just the book, it's what you do with the book. And so we're talking about that. We're looking at those options as well.
I think that anybody listening up until now, you got to take notes, underline, highlight, circle. It's not just the book, it's what you do about the book that makes you the money. That's 100% true. Let's talk about the biggest marketing or like maximization techniques you have with books. So they write the book, they work with you, beautiful cover, well written by the author with your assistance. How do we make money with this now?
Yes, and just optimization, just for clarification, most of my clients are not writing their book. They're interviewing with me, and I'm writing as a conduit for them, through them. And so they show up with me, they interview, and they can go forth and pay attention to their company, to their family, and do the things that they want to do in the world. And then they show up and approve their manuscript, approve their cover, approve their social media campaign. And so only a small subset actually have the time and the skill set to write their own books, and I coach them through that.
Wow. Let me ask you to critique my process when I wrote my last book, which I've used actually as a marketing tool. But what I had a course that people were paying $3,000 to take this course, and it's like a 6-week video online program. And at this point, I was like, I was going to retire the course. So I took the whole course. I sent it to a writer, had her transcribe everything, and then write that into chapters of a book. Now, she got me the transcript, and I felt like it was 60% good. So I spent like 2 months, an hour here, an hour there, just editing. I hand drew a whole bunch of illustrations. But essentially, it was a course in book form. With a bit of story put into there to make it easier to read. I kind of got into it, but I don't feel like, I feel like there could have been a better way.
Yes, yeah, there is a better way. One of the things that, and I think most entrepreneurs that have gone through multiple levels have figured this out, that we need a team. The best way, we were taught a lie in grade school. We were taught that, when the teachers would teach us all of the information, and then we'd have the test. And if you looked at your friend's paper and said, "What'd you get for C?" "I got that." What did they call that?
Cheating.
Cheating, yes. And that is not cheating. It's called collaboration. And so as entrepreneurs, as employees, we grew up with this idea that we have to go it alone. We have to succeed. We have to figure it out by ourselves. And that if we get any kind of help with getting the result and getting the outcome, it's cheating. It's somehow not legitimate. And so we've succumbed to this lie that it has to be hard, it has to be painful, and it has to be alone. And that's just not the case. I have an entire team of editors that support the author. I have cover designers. I have video people that make the videos to promote the book across social media. I have people that do the graphics for their social media campaign, that write the copy. I have people a whole team that is supporting the author in the thousands of steps that happen that even most authors don't even know need to be done in order to have a successful book. And so all of the things that you were doing, I actually have a team to do that for you. And so I guess that would also be one of the optimizations that a lot of people could make when they're thinking, "Oh, I want to become an author." You don't have to sit with a typewriter in the woods in a cabin with a glass of whiskey by yourself for 5 years and and then bang out the book by yourself.
And for most people who you bring on, they don't identify as full-time authors. They identify as entrepreneurs who want to author a book. I've got a friend of mine, and he's a former client. We're still good friends, and he has like what 8.2 million copies of his book sold, physical copies. And then when I talk to him about book writing, it's so different because he is full on about books, and they're all business books, right? And I think 8.2 that's like a pretty big number, right? Like in the book world.
Yeah, that's a pretty big number in book world. But like you said, this is not a full-time thing.
It's not a full-time thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even a desire that they want it to be a full-time thing. They're
No, no.
they have something that, so yeah, like what you're doing in the world, bringing out content creation, helping people to do that in a way that is easy, that is impactful. And I've seen some of your work, and it's absolutely fantastic. And so it's like bringing that in the world is why you're here. It's what you're doing, and you becoming a full-time writer is a distraction for you. And so instead, we make it as something that will be supportive of you and your business and your mission, as well as creating that legacy and making that impact through you.
Yes. Now I'm going to put on the Kevin O'Leary hat, like, bald guy. How does this make me money? Obviously there's an investment to work with you. But like a lot of people, you got to make it make business sense, right? So we talk about what are the key ways, like the biggest return that people are seeing, like what strategies are going into that?
Yeah. And so, like we said earlier, it's not just, okay, and that's another mistake that a lot of people make. They go, okay, I'm an author, I'll just sit back and let the money roll in, And again,
if only,
if only, unless your name is like, Steven Spielberg or J.K. Rowling or, someone that has a big name, big following, that is not the reality of things. And even if you go with a traditional publishing house and happen to get picked up, the time where you heard the old stories in the old movies. I got picked up by so and so publishers, and they just cut me a check for $1 million, and I'm going to sit back and spend the next year writing my next book, and I got royalties of $500,000 up front. That doesn't happen anymore, and it's a rarity. And again, you have to be really huge where the company absolutely knows that you already are going to bring the people to get that money back for them. So going the traditional publisher route, they select very few. Most of the people that are authors now would not get an opportunity. And if they do, they're not going to see most of that money. Those royalties, those rights belong to the publishing house. And one of the things that I do as a lawyer, I know the value of intellectual property. And we talk about multiple ways to use that intellectual property. So once that book is created, I've had clients that were in traditional jobs. They became authors with the information that they were able to now have clearly articulated and laid out in their book. They created a business. They started masterminds. They started coaching programs. Several have left their job and working full-time now as an entrepreneur. They made that transition, but it started a lot of them with their book, because then they saw, I actually do have something of value to share with the world, and here it is laid out, and this is how I do it. And even people that have their businesses now, they're able to see other possibilities.
Okay, so we're kind of dancing around. I love what you're saying. It's amazing. Give me one story of somebody who, like, and you don't have to share the name if you don't want to. They wrote a book with you, and they are over the moon happy with results. What kind of results are we talking about?
Mm-hmm. So, for example, I have one client who wrote his book, and the plan that we developed for his successful launch, we're tying his book to a charity. And so it's bringing awareness and money to that charity. That charity is in turn going to be supporting one of his other businesses. And so there's cross edification there. The book is funneling into a mastermind, which are going to bring his ideal avatar into another one of his other companies. And there, of course, he's able to offer them the other things that he has of value for them. And so it's, again, not just, I made a book. It's how are you using the book? And so a lot of people look at just the cost of direct sales, and they're like, it's not worth it. made a little bit of money, but that's because they don't have an actual business plan. I mean, what if you did that with your business? You know, you said, "Oh, I made this awesome video box. I'm just gonna sit it here on the table and just wait for people to come by." That would be ridiculous, right?
It's if only. If only.
If only.
What do they say? That's like business is only two things. It's marketing and innovation, and everything you do is in one of those categories. So once you innovate, you create the book, then it's marketing. Like you got to be doing one or the other.
Yes, exactly. And more people where if you're an author, it's like you said, it's credibility, it's believability. People can understand, okay, this person is serious, invested, they know what they're talking about. You're more likely to get booked on paid stages. People create a whole ecosystem off of their book. It attracts other strategic partners.
And do you help to create this whole, like the let's just say, like the book is the gateway drug, right? And then after that, you got to get people onto the next thing, like start stepping them up into, or at least making them aware of these other things. Do you help to create that whole, what I would call it like the wake behind the boat of things that need to happen?
Yes, I actually have amazing people that I've worked with, that I've seen their work, and I connect. I've been told I have a superpower of connectivity. I love to connect people to people that are causing things to happen in the world, and I'm really good at it. And so just like I see the connections in people's books and their stories and what they're doing in the world, I see people that need to be connected with other people. So I have you need a podcast, I have somebody that can do a done for you podcast. You're looking to get publicity, you're looking to get interviewed on national television, I can make that happen. I know the person to connect you with to do that. You're looking to whatever it is, and so I've already thought about what are all the things that the entrepreneur needs to be successful as a business person, as an author, and I look for those ecosystem mergers to make that happen.
Oh, amazing. So we got to wrap this up in a second. Let's do one lightning round of questions that I've been accumulating here as we've been talking.
I'm going to say B. The answer is B.
Are you sure? Does Tony still do that thing at his events where it's just like C? C? It's always C, right?
C, yes, he absolutely does.
Well, if you know, if you're listening to this. Okay, number one, how long does it typically take to work with you and get this done?
Yes. It depends on the author. I work, like I said, most of my clients are super busy. And so I work with the author's schedule. And if they have something, important coming up, we work to that. Most of my clients, they'll meet with me once a week for an hour on Zoom, and usually 10 to 12 times, depending on the book. And then we have an entire team that's doing 1,000 other things in the background, editing and marketing and cover creation, and a lot of other things on the back end and at the same time. We have some clients that take a bit longer time because, again, they're busy or they're looking to do more things with their book.
Should we say roughly, like for someone listening, if they have an hour a week and they could commit a quarter, then that's like pretty...
Yeah.
Most people fall within that range. Okay. So if you have an hour a week and you could commit a quarter of a year, then you should definitely consider this. Or if you don't think you do, then you should still consider it.
Yes. If you can, or you can't, or you think you can, just have the conversation.
It actually sounds really easy. It's like
it's
an hour a week. Like, that's easy. And also what happens is, I would imagine that after I get off an interview with you and you ask me a bunch of questions and I answer them, then more things will come up within, you have that gap time. It's like, oh yeah, I should bring this up. I should bring that up. And then it just has this multiplying effect. And I think that toward the end, you're just like, I want to keep going. I have so much more. And Marjah's like, well, I need to go on a vacation.
I don't even need a vacation. I love what I do so much. I've actually been on vacations with my clients. We'll be on vacation working on their book. I'll show up at their house. We'll go out to dinner. We'll work. So as I travel around, sometimes I'm meeting with them live. I had one client who had a major event that she was hosting in Texas. And she was like, I need a book before my event. And we worked, and we got it done and got it out before her event. And so we shortened the timeline dramatically and got her published.
All the military attorney experience slamming together with authorship and hitting deadlines.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Go take the beach. Go take the beachfront, right? Okay, so that's question number one. Question number two, what kind of people should not be seeking to work with you?
People that are out to put something harmful into the world. I've had people that have contacted me who wanted to put out hate books, wanted to put out books that were just about ego. I just want to tell the world how great I am. I don't give a damn about anybody else. Those kind of books. And I had the conversations with them and try to see, okay, maybe there's something more here, or try to help them to see that they can do something else or something beyond what they saw as possible, and they didn't want to. And so I turned them down and said, no, this is not the space for that. I'm not the one to work with you. I have to spend a lot of time with somebody. And like I said, I left my practice in law. I value my health, my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health, and spending time with somebody affects that. And so I'm looking to spend time with incredible, amazing people. And so that's exactly what I get to do, and help them to bring their stories. And it's not that, they're all rainbows and lollipop stories. There's some dark, heavy stuff that these people have gone through in order to become who they became and do what they have done. And we're authentic with that. However, the purpose that they're sharing it for is for a higher reason. So that's the people that I'm looking for.
Amazing.
And that's the people that are looking for me.
Okay. I think we got to wrap this up. Marjah, thank you so much for your time. If somebody wants to get in touch with you about getting their book published, about working with you, what's the best place to go?
Author Writers Academy. And so you can go awaforlife.com. That's AWA, the number 4, LIFE.com. awaforlife.com. And make an appointment with us. Let's just have the conversation and see how we can help you.
Perfect. All right, guys, make sure you check that out. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be in the description. If you're listening on the podcast, check out the show notes. You're going to have all the links right there. Also, if you enjoyed this and you watched this or listened all the way to the end, that tells me that something about Marjah's story, about what she shared, her techniques, her experiences, spoke to you. Please go ahead and rate this 5 stars, which obviously it would be because it's Marjah. And tell your friends about this, because it's stories like this that relate to my audience, people like you, to realize that you're not alone. Everybody goes through tough experiences. Everybody has challenges, but it's that process of working through it that helps you get where you are, but also doubly, and it can inspire other people. So go ahead and share this with anybody you know is going through this experience in their entrepreneurship journey. And that's it. I'll see you in the next episode. Marjah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. This was amazing.